There's some facts, there's some references to certain documents in the LGBT movement that reveal some very uncomfortable truths about the agenda behind the whole thing, especially when you get into the pedophilia aspect of it. There's evidence and proof that there's a link between pedophilia and the LGBT agenda. The system, the agenda, the devil, is after your children. Hi everybody, welcome to this week's Real Speaks weekly current events show.
Hi everyone.
I'm Hope.
And this is Tavon.
And in this show we're going to be covering sort of a theme of sorts of different kinds of perversions, sexual perversions that are going on in the mainstream news. So what do we have for this show?
Huge pedo dark web bust.
Drag Queen Story Hour, convicted sex offenders, Fire and Brimstone review,
pedos on Twitter, and Prince Andrew Epstein orgies.
Okay.
So you can tell this is going to be a rather intense show. We will try to do the best that we can to give the information the just coverage that it needs.
Yes.
Now, before we get started with this show, we just wanted to direct you to our website that goes along with the show, realspeaks.com. This is the best place to come and subscribe to our show so that you will get the latest shows delivered directly to your inbox. Now, why are we doing this, Devon?
Because we have been contacted by several of our YouTube followers on our various channels that they are not receiving our notifications when we put out new content.
Yep, we've been shadow banned along with the rest of the truth tellers on YouTube. So this is the way that we're trying to combat that. We're putting this show out on every single platform we can think of as a backup and a backup
Right.
to a backup. But the best way to find out about when the next shows are coming is to subscribe. You go to our website right here, you'll see the latest shows, always on the front page, and you click the subscribe button, put in your email address. That's it. It's totally free. We won't spam you, we promise. And also, if you want to contact us, there's the contact us link right there.
Yes.
Send us an email, let us know what you think, and you can leave comments below this video, but also on the blog itself.
Yes, yeah.
Now, we wanted to take this brief moment to say that we put out these shows and we are not monetized. We've never been monetized on YouTube. What we do in order to support ourselves is we have some products and services that we think that you're going to love. So we would just like to briefly tell you about our book, Forbidden Tech. Tavon and I wrote this book.
Among the many other topics covered in the book, you'll learn about free energy, patents, political scandals, murders, cover-ups, engineering basics, cars that run on water, surveillance, gang stalking, energy weapons, and viable solutions to protecting yourself against them. We've cut out all the fluff and brought you right to the heart of the matter.
So you can see that the book is now on sale. We have it in an ebook form. We have it in an audiobook form where Tavon and I read the book out loud to really bring the information to life. We also have an entire video course. So if you're interested in this kind of information, this is the stuff that they do not want you to know about. Then this would be a great book to pick up, and I think that you'll get a lot from it. We've put all of our life's work and our evidence and research into this one body of work. And here it is also on Amazon in a printed book form, now on sale for $35.
Okay, in addition to our services, some of the products we also make deal with EMF protection for the body and home decor, and you can check those out at ftwproject.com. That is our Fix the World Morocco website, and there you can look at our products. We have sleeping pods available. That seems to be one of our more popular products. We also have phone shields. All of these are dealt with are made from orgone materials, and these are able to rectify the fields that are coming from wireless sources that would otherwise harm you, and they create these items create a barrier of protection around you and your animals and your plants. And so having these products will definitely help. The charge plates, for example, you can put those in your fridge to keep the foods in your fridge, preserve them longer, thus saving you money. We also have bracelets and pendants that are able to also create a buffer between you and some of these fields that impact the body.
And every piece is handmade by Tavon.
Yeah.
This is one of his labors of love, and we ship all over the world. The price of shipping is included with every single one of our products.
And all of our products are tracked.
Yes, they're all tracked, and if you wanted to ask us any questions, we have lots of videos about our products showing the scientific proof and evidence behind how they work, why they work, what they're good for, or you can always come to our website and leave us a message in our chat box.
And also, all of our products also contain shungite as one of the main primary materials we use to rectify this toxic EMF radiation.
And don't forget to check out our special offers page on the website, where we have special offers up to 75% off of some of our best products. We have them in groups and bundles and all kinds of special deals. But once you click on the link, they will expire within 24 to 48 hours. We hope you'll check it out. We have over 2,000 happy, satisfied customers all over the world, and who have given us some wonderful feedback on how these products have really helped them, especially if they are sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies or fields.
Right.
And with that said, let's get started with today's show. We're going to start off with, this is a little bit of a surprise for Tavon, because I haven't showed him this article yet, because I wanted to try to get his genuine reaction when I showed him. But this article was in the news just this week. All right, so this is from the Daily Mail. This says that police will allow convicted rapists to be recorded as females if they no longer identify with their male birth sex. Police forces allow convicted male rapists to be recorded as being females. Sexual criminals are being allowed to choose to identify their own gender. Practice taking place at 6 forces, including South Yorkshire and Thames Valley, and revealed in Freedom of Information requests submitted by Fair Play for Women. I was astounded to see this. I mean, so think about what they're saying here. That if you were a man and you raped a woman, or a man, but just, you're a man and you rape another person, and then you get convicted of that rape, now you can say, I changed my mind, I want to be a woman and be tried as a woman. Therefore, they're going to put you, the convicted male rapist, into a women's prison where you can probably rape more women in jail. That's what I thought at first. So let's read the article. Police forces across Britain are now allowing convicted male rapists to be recorded as being female if they no longer want to identify with their sex at birth. 6 forces, including South Yorkshire and Thames Valley constabularies, were revealed to have adopted the practice which allocated sexual offenders with a different gender identity on their official database, which is used by the Home Office. The information was revealed in a Freedom of Information request by women's rights group Fair Play for Women into how police compile official records. In the request, Durham, Kent, Norfolk, and Suffolk police forces, as well as British Transport Police, also hinted that they do record gender in line with the offender's wishes. You can't get much more of a male crime than rape, Nicola Williams, director of FPW, told the Sunday Times. It would be highly offensive to a woman who was raped to have it written down that her attacker was a female when clearly that person was a male with a penis.
Wow.
Rape is defined as intentionally penetration of another person with a penis. Without consent, according to the Sexual Offenses Act, females cannot be charged with rape, but could instead face other sexual offense charges. In a statement, South Yorkshire Police said, "We will accept the details that an individual provides us and treat them accordingly." Responding to the questions about male sex offenders identifying as females, Thames Valley Police confirmed that they will only be referred to as females in their system. Dorset, Dyfed, Powys, and North Wales Police confirmed the same policy, as did Devon and Cornwall, although it also records the person's previous identity. The National Police Chiefs Council added, "How gender is recorded is a matter for each individual force. However, as a general rule, we will accept the details that an individual provides us and treat them accordingly. The records form part of the official returns known as the Annual Data Requirement, ADR, submitted by every police force in England and Wales to the Home Office."
Wow. I have no words to describe what's happened here. This is it's insane. It is absolutely crazy.
Well, how about that part where it says that if you suddenly become a female, you can no longer be charged with rape?
It's like the police force are giving these rapists the option to find a loophole around being charged as a male. Instead, is it like a quota? I mean, they seem to be so gung-ho in trying to get them to change their sex identity with all this gender bending stuff.
It's so
crazy.
Crazy.
That's on their mind, not the offense.
So this is definitely an example of this gender bending agenda being like just totally just screwing with laws. And I mean, look at it right there. It says it right there. Rape is defined as intentionally penetration of another person with a penis without consent according to the Sexual Offenses Act. So females cannot be charged with rape, but could instead face other sexual offense charges. So what's the crime? If you rape somebody, how long do you go away for? But if you're no longer a male, now you're a female.
Well, there's so many directions to go
It's like
with.
a lesser sentence, right?
Well, there's so many directions to go with this. The rape as an event happened in the past, and so this person's being charged for an event that happened. But yet, if they decide to change what they identify, it's retroactive. Do they get all their sins are forgiven? This has an acidic, anarchic aspect to it, and when it comes to law, it's just being eroded away because you're trying to pass this agenda. And clearly, if all these police forces in multiple counties across the UK are doing this, then it smacks of an agenda.
Well, let's see what our listeners think. If you've got some opinions about this, please put them in the comments section below. We definitely want to get some conversation going on around this topic. All right, next up, we're going to give a review of a movie that we just purchased called Fire and Brimstone. This movie was put out by throughtheblack.com. And it says here, a year before director Tom Dunn joined David Arthur of I Belong Amen Ministries on the road to tell his story for Fire and Brimstone, David sat down with Tom and Jared to share his testimony. Now, first I want to say that when I saw the trailer, which we're going to play in just a moment, I really wanted to see this movie. And because we live in Morocco, I had to wait a long time in order to get the movie, because I have this little mail system I do where I ordered it. So it's not the director's fault that it took so long for them to get the movie to me. They got it to me on time, but it was the whole international mailing system that I had to use, right?
Right.
So we waited 2 months to get this film, and it was well worth the wait. Now, the reason why we had to wait 2 months to get this film is because it's not available on a digital purchase format. And I asked Tom why that was, and he said it was because he was pretty sure it was going to be censored due to what is revealed in this film. I can't tell you how deeply this film affected me and Tavon, and my family watched it too. It was really extremely revealing. David Arthur is an amazing man. He's been a victim of, he was, molested as a child, and his story is so incredible. But the thing that really gets revealed in the end is that there's a huge connection between the LGBT movement promoting the normalization of pedophilia.
And David Arthur, he is giving his testimony having come from that movement. He's first-hand knowledge, and I wrote him a message saying that we're going to cover his story on this show, and I'm hoping that he'll be able to watch this show and see how deeply we were affected, and we wanted to help share this information. So if you want to get the movie yourself, go to throughtheblack.com. It's called Fire and Brimstone, and you can order the film on DVD, and it will be shipped to your house in just a couple days. Let's go ahead and play the trailer, though, to give you guys a taste of what this movie's about.
I was home. We were in Philly, and I can picture it to today when the phone rang, and I had to. It was like, what do you say? I all I could say to him is, David, come home, come home. But Mom, come home. That's all I could say to him is, come home.
Bobby Campbell of San Francisco and Billy Walker of New York both suffer from a mysterious, newly discovered disease which affects mostly homosexual men.
All I wanted to do as a child was engage in sexual activity. So I was angry, and I set out to purposely and intentionally infect as many people as I could with HIV.
Oh my God, he's got AIDS. Don't touch me. Don't come near me. Don't come to my house.
they're twisting scripture and they're letting the world know, we want your children.
Stroh is where all of the prostitutes go to sell their bodies.
It was disgusting. And I did not want to see my little brother like that.
If I was not offended, if I was not hurt, if I was not angered, I wouldn't be here today.
Right. So, Tavon, because we're going to play, he has a 5-minute testimony that we're going to play so people can hear his story quickly.
Right, yeah.
But, Tavon, I just wanted to ask you, can you recall maybe one or two moments in the film or things in the film that really affected you and changed your perspective on some things?
Well, for me, it's just seeing how God has used him to give his testimony and the miracle that he tells the audience what happens to him at the low point, basically on his deathbed. I believe that he truly was delivered from death, and that he was here for a reason to give his testimony. And so for me, that was that really did change my view on a couple of things. Especially, it gave it's amazing. It was an amazing example of God's grace.
Yeah, to hear that he went through everything that he went through, and to see that he had full-blown AIDS, and he was dying. He was sent home to die. And he prayed, and Jesus healed him. And now he's walking around, a living, walking testimony, giving his testimony to others who are prostituting on the streets, other transgenders that are on the verge of suicide, testifying to them that there's a way out, that there's no such thing as too far gone. It was very, very powerful. And there's also some facts, there's some references to certain documents in the LGBT movement that reveal some very uncomfortable truths about the agenda behind the whole thing. Especially when you get into the pedophilia aspect of it. There's evidence and proof that there's a link between pedophilia and the LGBT agenda. So, with that said, we really suggest that you take a look at this movie, because you'll see that in many respects, the system, the agenda, the devil, is after your children. And it's there plain as day. We're going to show a couple of things in this show that just kind of go along with that concept, to show you what's going on in the online world under the auspices of the LGBT movement. But first, we're going to play his 5-minute testimony from David Arthur so that you can hear his story for yourself.
Being molested as a young child, I began associating that negative attention with the male affirmation that I lacked in my own life because my father had taken his life. By 8 years old, I realized that the more feminine and more different that I acted, the more attention I received. I figured I must have been born in the wrong body. I actually began to long for my molesters to give me that male affirmation, that negative attention that I so desired. By the age of 13, I had overdosed on drugs. By the age of 14, I was a homeless runaway. I was taking female hormones. I was prostituting my body on the streets of Philadelphia. And at the age of 14, I was also HIV positive. Living in a world where children are recruited, what I now know to be molested, into this dark movement, and then becoming a recruiter, yes, a molester myself. I found that the HIV virus does not hinder any of this activity that's going on. I didn't come from a Christian home, but my mother, by nature, would not accept me as a woman. Thank you, Mom. She would not allow that abomination into her home, and she didn't even know it was an abomination. The correctional officer that offended me, he hurt my feelings, and he told me the truth in love. He expressed God's love to me by offending me with the truth, because the truth is offensive to those who deny it and do not live in it. But that man, that was the first man in my entire life that I knew that he truly and he purely loved me. And he didn't want anything from me. He planted that seed, he watered it. God eventually caused the increase, but not before I made more wrong choices and suffered deeply. By 2008, I was stricken down with osteoporosis, couldn't stand up straight, had to use a walker to walk. And that came from all of the female hormones and trauma that I had put my body through. By 2009, I was plagued with full-blown AIDS, infections in my brain and my blood. I had no immune system. The virus had festered in my body and taken over. There were boils popping out all over me from the infections trying to fight their way out of me. Sent home to die, a hospital bed replaced my own bed. I knew two things. I knew I was afraid to die, and I knew that I didn't want to go to hell. I picked up the word of God, and the very first verse I read was Romans 1:27, and it told me that not only was I living sinfully, but I was living unnaturally, and I was in direct opposition to God's will and his very intent for creating me. I cried out to God. I prayed. I believed. I repented, and he heard my cry. I woke one morning with an unbelievable peace and a joy within me, my moment of grace, everybody. And even among the excruciating pain that I was in, I finally knew what rest truly meant. I knew at that moment that I was no longer afraid to die and that I wasn't going to hell, and I begged God. I said, Lord, please just take me home, because I do not want to go on like this any longer. Please, I pleaded with him to please end my life. But I did ask him one thing. I said, Lord, through my death, may you be glorified. May you be glorified through my death. May somebody, or my mom, my family, somebody come to know you through my death. And he honored that request, because David died. David was reborn. My life is no longer my own. Every single breath that I have left inside of me belongs to him and to his glory. He healed me. He rose me up. He chose me. And he did so for such a time as this. Please, don't love people to death. Do not love them literally to hell by allowing them to live in their sin. I love you all. Peace.
I also wanted to highlight David's YouTube channel if you wanted to go and follow along with some of the things that he has been putting out. He's got some videos here. It's David Arthur, I Alphabet Man. And his website is www.ibelongamen.com. And as always, we will put all the links in the blog post for this show so that you can go and follow up. His story is phenomenal. God bless you, David, and thank you,
David,
for your service for the kingdom of God to help others get out of darkness. Okay, next up, we're going to talk about pedos on Twitter. What you're looking at here on the screen is an actual screen capture that I took a while ago, because since this was taken, this account was shut down on Twitter. However, they had it up for a year.
Yeah.
Okay, the name of the account is Legalize Pedosexuality, hashtag LGBTQP. And it says it's an organization advocating for the legalization and liberation for all pedosexuals across the globe. And they have a hashtag Love is Ageless on there. This account was up for a year. It had thousands upon thousands of people reporting it like crazy. And they were constantly being told, oh, it doesn't violate our terms of service. Twitter kept this account up for a year until finally it was deleted like a month ago, like 1 or 2 months ago.
Right.
And so I just wanted to give you, I want to show this screen capture. This is just me scrolling through. You can see the icon, right? They had some things they're talking about. Kevin Spacey was a victim of society's discrimination against pedophilia. Here you can see some of the comments. People saying that there's a wood chipper with their name on it. People saying the world's gone mad, reporting it. So many people were reporting this. People just disagreeing with the concept of being born this way. There was a lot of public outcry against this. So it was sort of like they were testing the waters to see if they could legalize or normalize pedophilia, which they're still pushing really hard to do, and they're using the LGBT movement as the auspices under which to do such things. It's being resisted big time by the general public.
Well, it's amazing how people can manage to get their Twitter accounts shut down for much less.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we would be afraid to post something exposing a pedophile, saying, that they were convicted of rape and whatever. That might get shut down. But something promoting pedophilia, you have to, thousands and thousands of people reported this, and it still didn't, it wasn't shut down. It took them a year. It took them a year to get this off the internet. So anyway, that's just a little bit of a scroll through of the account that used to be up and is no longer there, but just showing you that this indeed is all over the mainstream. All right, also in the news, this month we're going to cover Drag Queen Story Hour and the big protesting movements that are coming up around it. So let's go back in time a little bit. There was an article that we found here on InfoWars called Shocking Number of Drag Queen Story Hour Events Announced.
So this is from InfoWars. Shocking number of Drag Queen Story Hour events announced. And this was published on June 16th, 2019. Far left push to sexualize and culturally corrupt children goes global.
Look at that picture. Got a drag queen, but look at the look on the child's face. That says a lot to me.
What does it say about the parents? Drag Queen Story Hour has gone global. Far left art group Radar Productions and liberal author Michelle T have created an organized and far-reaching Drag Queen Story Hour campaign that stretches across the globe, cataloged by their website, dragqueenstoryhour.org. The Drag Queen Story Hour website celebrates that its chapters are now all over the world to influence children and describes how the program works should one be interested in starting a new chapter.
The program lasts about 45 minutes. One drag queen reads at each event. The drag queen reads 2 or 3 picture books interspersed with simple songs and movement activities for 20 to 25 minutes, the website states. Then the drag queen leads children in a craft activity decorating wands and crowns are popular crafts, and parents, guardians may choose to take pictures of their children with the drag queen. We end with a dance party. Dozens of Drag Queen Story Hour events are now popping up all across America, from California to Michigan, with even international events in Sweden and Japan. So we covered this actually like 2 years ago when we first started doing Real Speaks, thinking, it was just like this thing, but it is hardcore. Like, it has not slowed down. It's just blown up. So these events are going on all over the place in local libraries, right? This is from their website, Drag Queen Story Hour chapters. Drag Queen Story Hour events are happening all over the world at libraries, schools, bookstores, museums, summer camps, after-school programs, and other community spaces. Click on the links below to connect with your local chapter. If your community doesn't yet have a chapter, we've got resources to help you organize your own event. And it shows all the states. And then also Japan, Sweden, all these different areas. Radar Productions, one of the founding groups, bills itself as a queer literary arts organization creating and supporting a community of queer artists through commissioning, developing, and presenting groundbreaking literary work. So, I don't think we're going to go through and play the videos of the drag queens and what they look like. There's so many videos out there, and some of them are just doing some really lewd, extremely sexual things in front of all of these children and toddlers. And the parents are just smiling. They think it's cute. They think it's funny. And it's quite horrifying, if you ask me, what they're doing. But here's an interesting story. This came out a few months back, but it's playing a role today. This is from the Daily Mail. Library admits they let a convicted sex offender read to children as young as 2 in drag after failing to perform a basic background check.
Yeah.
The Houston Public Library has banned a man who has been previously charged for sexually assaulting a child from reading to children at Drag Queen Storytime. The library apologized after not completing a background check on Albert Alfonso Garza, 32, last known to be reading to kids at the Montrose Library. The library blamed the failure to complete a background check on a volunteer. Garza was charged with child sexual assault involving a victim who was 8 years old in 2008. So, this is a big deal.
Yes.
They got busted that one of the drag queens is a registered sex offender, convicted of molesting a child. A pedophile. One of these, come on. I mean, it's right there. Does that stop the show? Nope, the show must go on according to these folks, and they're continuing to roll out all of their Drag Queen Storytime events in every public library they can possibly find.
Also, with the growing surveillance state and police state, it just seems like these people seem to have a password, glide through this surveillance grid.
Yeah.
Unimpeded to continue with their offenses on children.
I think it's because it's by design. They're given a free pass because it's set up as part of a bigger agenda.
Were they told to register as a female next time they got arrested?
So anyway, there is a group called massresistance.org. We'll check out their website in just a second. And they are protesting the Drag Queen Storytime events that are going on. But what we have here is a mainstream article. We will play this video from KTNV Las Vegas News, and this is coverage of the response that the drag queens are having to the resistance against them. This is titled Drag Performer Responds to Controversy Surrounding Drag Queen Story Hour at Public Libraries.
So I got a bunch of hate message, a bunch of death threats.
Well, new tonight at 11, a drag performer talks about the fallout from drag queen story hours being held at public libraries here and also across the country.
The backlash and protests so widespread that even the American Library Association issued a response.
Well, new tonight at 11, anchor Carla Wade explains why a local performer feels despite the threats, the program is worthwhile.
The next Drag Queen Storytime will take place here at the Gibson Library this Saturday. We had a chance to talk with one of the so-called diversity divas about all of the controversy, and he tells us this is a unique and fulfilling opportunity for drag performers.
Just add glitter.
Woo! In drag culture, a good read doesn't usually involve a room full of children in a suburban public library. But off the stage and out of the club, Matthew Dursky, also known as Polly Porcelain, leaves behind the snark, captivating a group that is both younger and much less cynical than his typical audience.
In Vegas, at least, there's not a lot of opportunities for queer people or drag queens to do a project like this. And so as soon as I kind of heard about it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a great opportunity. So I knew I had to do it because where else am I going to get that opportunity here?
Relatively new to the drag scene, the opportunity presented itself for Matthew as a part of an LGBTQ outreach program hosted by the public library system. But it's been met with protests here and across the country. Opponents who say the event is not appropriate for small children, finding and taunting drag performers on social media.
So I got a bunch of hate message, a bunch of death threats.
This video shows protesters outside the Green Valley Library in September. It was organized by a group called Mass Resistance, which is categorized by the Southern Poverty Law Center as a hate group. Matthew says he's met at least one person, initially turned off by the event, who changed her mind after watching, telling him,
this event was not what I thought it was, and I'm happy that, I did come because I got to see that it wasn't a negative thing. We didn't talk about gender to the kids. We didn't talk about sex to the kids. It was just a positive environment.
There aren't a lot of ways for drag performers to be in non-adult spaces, but he says, unlike grown-ups, the kids don't read too much into it at all.
I think they just like that it's a character dressed up fancy, reading them a fun book.
Carla Wade, 13 Action News.
Well, so just listen to what he was saying in that news clip there. We encourage you to, again, look at the movie Fire and Brimstone with David Arthur's testimony, because what he says, based on coming out of that movement as a hardcore, being part of that movement, is complete 180 from what you just heard.
Absolutely. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to give you a broader perspective. And we want to have compassion about the people that are engaged in this stuff, because they most of the time are victims themselves. David Arthur called the molestation of a child, the pedophilia, it was recruitment.
Yeah.
It was recruiting people,
The next generation.
into these movements to carry out a bigger agenda, which is to go after your kids. So with that said, we're very happy to see that there is a mass resistance. And that's the name
Yes.
of this site. It's called massresistance.org. And this is showing that people are not just taking this laying down, they're actually speaking out against it and saying, no, this is we're not going to tolerate this. So let's just check out their website, massresistance.org. And I just want to show you some of the ongoing titles. I'll read the titles of the different posts that they're putting up on a regular basis. Just in October, city council members attack parents over opposition to drag queens in library. Parents return and lash back.
That's fascinating. The city council seems to be heading up this whole thing in different states. Why
Yeah.
would the city council actually have to talk down to the parents?
Right.
Isn't their taxpayers' money keeping you sitting there
Or
in that panel?
paying for the library that this is happening to? I mean, seriously. How about outraged California parents confront city council over drag queens in library? Right. San Diego, mass resistance confronts anti-Christian bigotry over drag queen event. Straight pride parade in Boston attracts flood of lunatic Antifa attackers.
Oh, wow.
All right, some really interesting articles that they've been posting showing the resistance against this perversion that's going on. Mass resistance debates LGBT group Equality Nevada over drag queen story hour on Las Vegas radio station. So that's what they were responding to in that last news clip that we saw.
Mm-hmm.
California church vandalized for opposing drag queen story hour in local public library. I mean, can you imagine? You speak out against this because of your belief system, and then they come and they spray paint Satan on the door of your church.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of them here. We've got drag queen in Austin, Texas, public library exposed by mass resistance as convicted male prostitute.
Right.
So this was the group that got the convicted pedophile exposed.
Yeah.
And from there, they've been making a lot of headway trying to bring people's awareness to why this is not just a fun dress-up game, that this is inherently wrong.
Or they're volunteers, and they're volunteers with defense, with the state backing them, or the city council backing them in a lot of these cases.
So the battle goes on, trying to keep our kids safe and trying to, allow people who have certain morals and values that are of God to be able to have those morals and values and not have this kind of stuff just like shoved in their faces.
Yes.
Because even if you're not of a certain religion, if you're not Christian, this stuff just bothers a lot of people. They don't want this stuff around their kids. It freaks people out, and it should not be allowed on the level that it's allowed.
Yes.
So with that said, we're kind of in the same vein here. We're going to move on to the next story, which just came out. This has to do with sex trafficking. It has to do with younger people being trafficked, and of course, it's all around the billionaire Jeffrey Epstein and his relationships with different members of the royal family, amongst others. Well, this just came out in the news.
So this is from the Daily Mail, co.uk. Prince Andrew joined in an orgy with Jeffrey Epstein and 9 girls at billionaire pedophile's private island, accuser claims in court papers. Channel 4 documentary re-examines court documents from Virginia Roberts. In statement, she said she took part in orgy with Andrew Epstein and 8 others. Andrew has denied the claims, and the evidence was later thrown out by court.
A new TV documentary is set to re-examine claims Prince Andrew joined in an orgy with pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and 9 young women. Virginia Roberts, now Virginia Giuffre, made the allegation, which the prince vehemently denies in court papers in 2015. Now, a new investigation by Channel 4's Dispatches has re-examined the court papers and looked at Mrs. Roberts' medical records from around the time she says she was abused. The program cites a court deposition made in January of 2015 as part of a defamation case brought by Epstein's former girlfriend, Ghislaine Maxwell, where she states that the third time she had sex with Andy was in an orgy on Epstein's private island in the U.S. Virgin Islands. She said she was 18 at the time and that approximately 8 other young girls and I had sex together. She said Epstein had joked that the girls couldn't communicate well due to a language barrier and that he had said they were the easiest girls to get along with. The Channel 4 program has since obtained medical records of Miss Roberts that show from the 9th of July 2001 she suffered 3 weeks of vaginal bleeding. The TV documentary looks into 1,200 pages of documents made public to a Manhattan court. Mrs. Roberts' evidence was thrown out in May of 2015. Earlier this year, Buckingham Palace said any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue, and it is emphatically denied that Duke of York had any form of sexual contact with Virginia Roberts. Any claim to the contrary is false and without foundation. So it goes on to say that, he denies it, but they're reopening the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a giant scandal.
It's a huge scandal, and, I don't know how long this is going to go on, where they're just kind of batting the ball back and forth saying, I deny it, prove it, and then there's all this proof, and then you just ignore the proof, because that seems to be what goes on with these cases.
Yeah. And then it gets buried, and anyone else who was there at the time, like Epstein, disappears.
Right. It's just buried, but these victims, they come out, and look, there are some victims that are fake victims, okay? We understand that. But these other victims come out, and they have medical documentation and evidence beyond evidence, mountains and mountains of evidence. And when it's so true, and it's so in your face, and it's so blatantly obvious that they are telling the truth, and this person needs to be punished for abusing them, that's when it just gets really weird, and they'll get really quiet, and it gets put under the rug, and the rest of the population that knows about these cases, everybody is like me. I'm really upset. Why isn't anything being done? Why is there absolutely no justice? How much longer can it go on like this?
Or how much more can society take?
Yeah. How much more? How much more can society take before we finally get to the point where it's like, enough is enough? I think there's going to be some sort of giant event where the hammer comes down. The judgment of God has got to come on this stuff.
I think it'll happen in different ways. Kind of like the plagues in Egypt.
Yeah.
Where things just get worse and worse and worse, and I think people might just abandon the system entirely if things continue to degenerate.
Well, Jesus told us that as it was in the days of Sodom and Gomorrah, that's what it's going to be like right before he comes back. So that's what we're seeing. And, the cries of the innocent, they cry up to God. So there's something has got to give. So we're just watching it all unfold, and we're trying to just take it the best that we can, because it's really hard to hear about these things and to not see anything being done. People get so angry, and sometimes I just don't want to walk around angry all the time. I want to try to find some peace and some joy, but at the same time, I don't want to do that at the expense of knowing what the truth is. So it's important for us to know that these things are happening, but to find a way to find peace with it, consult with our Creator and say, how do I handle this? And when I ask that, the answer I usually get is, how do you think God feels about this?
Yeah.
So anyway, let's talk about some judgment that did just happen. Because here's our big story. We saved it for the end. Big news this past week. On October 16th, this came out. This is on the ICE.gov, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement website. South Korean national and hundreds of others charged worldwide in the takedown of the largest darknet child pornography website funded by Bitcoin.
Wow, something else, isn't it?
Whew. So listen to this. Dozens of minor victims who were being actively abused by site users rescued. Washington, Jang-won Sun, 23, a South Korean national, was indicted by a federal grand jury in the District of Columbia for his operation of Welcome to Video, the largest child sex exploitation market by volume of content. The 9-count indictment was unsealed today along with a parallel civil forfeit action. Sun had also been charged and convicted in South Korea and is currently in custody serving his sentence in South Korea. An additional 337 site users residing in, here's the states, Alabama, Arkansas, California, Connecticut, Florida, Georgia, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Nebraska, New Jersey, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina,
Texas, Utah, Virginia, Washington State, and Washington, D.C., as well as the United Kingdom, South Korea, Germany, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, the Czech Republic, Canada, Ireland, Spain, Brazil, and Australia have been arrested and
charged. Whew.
Wow.
This is big. Acting Executive Associate Director Elisa Eriks of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, Homeland Security Investigations, Assistant Attorney General Brian A. Benzowski of the Justice Department's Criminal Division, U.S. Attorney Jesse K. Liu for the District of Columbia, and Chief Don Ford of IRS Criminal Investigations made the announcement. Okay, I'll have Tavon read the announcement that was made.
Okay, so this is in all quotes. Children are our most vulnerable population, and crimes such as these are unthinkable, said HSI Acting Executive Associate Director Eliza Eriks. Sadly, advances in technology have enabled child predators to hide behind the dark web and cryptocurrency to further their criminal activity. However, today's indictment sends a strong message to criminals that no matter how sophisticated the technology or how widespread the network, child exploitation will not be tolerated in the United States. Our entire justice system will stop at nothing to prevent these heinous crimes, safeguard our children, and bring justice to all.
And here's another quote. Darknet sites that profit from sexual exploitation of children are among the most vile and reprehensible forms of criminal behavior, says Attorney General Brian A. Benzowski of the Justice Department's Criminal Division. This administration will not allow child predators to use lawless online spaces as a shield. Today's announcement demonstrates that the Department of Justice remains firmly committed to working closely with our partners in South Korea and around the world to rescue child victims and bring to justice the perpetrators of these abhorrent crimes.
Okay, so the article goes on, but I want to be able to read the next section because this basically describes how they were able to trace this material to the source, even in the dark web. So for all you tech heads, bear this in mind, and you know when you think about thinking you're going to have an anonymous transaction using cryptocurrency, through the sophisticated tracing of Bitcoin transactions, IRS/CL special agents were able to determine the location of the darknet server, identify the administrator of the website, and ultimately track down the website server's physical location in South Korea, said IRSCI Chief Don Fort. Quote, this large-scale criminal enterprise that endangered the safety of children around the world is no more. Regardless of the illicit scheme and whether the proceeds are virtual or tangible, we will continue to work with our federal and international partners to track down these disgusting organizations and bring them to justice. Right.
So we've been kind of trying to tell people that for a while. You know, that Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, they're not all they're cracked up to be, and people think that they can hide behind anonymity. That's the problem that we've had. We've done several shows talking about this.
Right.
You know, you think that you can hide behind anonymity on the internet. You're never going to get caught. So this particular case is just mind-blowing.
Yes.
Look at how big this is. And they were able to trace their anonymous Bitcoins.
Right.
To find out where these guys were.
To the source, to a physical location.
Yeah, and then they went and arrested their asses.
Right.
You know, so you can run, but you can't hide.
That's right.
Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you go through the article, it talks about how Welcome to Video offered videos of, you know, a kid and kid porn and smut and all kinds of stuff for sale using cryptocurrency. right? But then they listed all the names and all the locations of all the people that were arrested. So if you look on the screen here, you'll see their names, where they live, their location, and what they were charged with. And what we did was we went and we looked a few of these up. Like we went to the one in the UK and found a story that said, yep, this was the person in the UK that was arrested in the ring. So all these people that just got busted,
A lot of them made local news in their area too.
local news,
Right.
their face and their picture was up there. Their lives are over.
Yep.
You know, they're in jail, but that's it. Everybody knows. Everybody knows now. So it feels gratifying to finally get some justice. We keep hearing these rumors about indictments being sealed and all these arrests are about to happen, but this actually happened.
Yes, this actually happened, but this also leads to a larger debate with policing the internet, obviously, and how even what would be considered secure methods of communication, like what's supposed to be the dark net, or using these things to have secure communications to be able to get your word out, can also be used for exploitation of other human beings as well. So again, the censorship of the internet debate will continue to roll on because people are using it both for good and ill. So.
Well, that is an excellent way to end this week's show. We are getting heavily shadow banned.
We've received some communication from some of our followers on our YouTube channel that they're not receiving notifications when we put out new video content.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a plan that we've put into place to try to combat all the censorship and the shadow banning, and that is we have a blog and a mailing list. So
Yes.
please, the best thing to do is to sign up to our mailing list on our blog. Go to realspeaks.com, and right there it says to sign up for our mailing list, and that way every time we have a new show out, which we are planning to put one out on 2 shows a week,
Yes. Yeah.
one on Tuesday and one on Thursday, we will deliver that show and that new video directly to your inbox so that you know when we have a new video out and you don't have to rely on YouTube's lack of notifying you. So thanks everybody for joining us this week, and we will see you next week on Real Speaks.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye-bye.